welcome. I want to welcome Lee, and I'm so thrilled that we're speaking to Lee today because there is so much going on in the world, and astrology is a science, and I think with that science we are guaranteed to get some clarification on things that are outside of us, because it's so easy to personalize it, especially when there's so much going on, especially if you're sensitive. And I guess to stop and ask the question, is this me? What's me? What's not me? And boundaries, because someone is coming on, because it feels more chaotic than usual in the last 2 weeks.
Of course. Yes, yes. Okay, well, thank you, Barbara, for...
Oh, and thank you for being here, Lee, and for doing this. I so appreciate it. Lee is a master astrologist and has been a practitioner, very devoted of a Buddhist faith, and has, I feel, just a wide lens to pull everything together, and without interjecting her personal view, that comes with a lot of work. Right. And Lee does incredible astrology sessions, and also kind of inner child coaching based on your astrology sessions that have helped me a lot. So thank you so much for being here, Lee.
My pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Hi, Phyllis. Hi, so good to see you, and Dorothy and Erica and Hannah, Eva, who I don't know, but happy to see you, and Jane, nice to see you again. Welcome, everyone. Laurel, oh, just beautiful. Thank you. I realize how precious our time is, and for you to commit to an hour or so to hear what I have to say about the astrological currents. I'm just very grateful for your being here and investing the time and the interest in trying to understand what's happening and how we can work with these currents. So I'll start with, it's a pleasure to be here. It is my pleasure to share astrology. I've been doing it since I've been 8 years old, and studying starting at 18. So that's about 50 years or so. And I just keep learning. By no means do I feel like I know everything. I don't think it's possible as an astrologer to know everything under the astrological sky. However, I do feel like I've gotten great training, and I devote myself to the study of it on a daily basis. So I think the lens I look through is pretty clear. Again, whatever I say, if it feels right, if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, let it go. If you want to put it on a shelf and just kind of revisit it another time, that's okay too. But this is how I'm seeing it. The solar flares, yes. Did anyone see the picture of the solar flares, the new photography of the sun? And it actually shows coronal mass ejections and solar flares coming from the sun's surface.
Yes.
Have you seen that yet?
Yes.
Maybe one or two. Yes. Amazing. I mean, you really see this force coming from the sun, emanating from the sun. And because of the intensity of the sun's activity, it's not just a coronal mass ejection, right? It's a solar flare, which gives it much more oomph. And we're feeling it. We feel everything, right? We feel the sun's activity, the moon, whether we're aware of it or not. Add to it, and I just have to add, just say the obvious, which is the war that's happening. And, we'd have to be in a coma or, really half dead not to feel the deep, deep grief about that, and how that kind of overshadows, I feel, everything. Even if we're not thinking consciously about it, it's there. And that is essential to just be aware of, because most of us on this call, I would venture to say, are sensitive, are intuitive, feel things deeply. So I would like us to just start with this new moon. You had also asked, Barbara, your second question had to do with intensity. Well, sure, we're in an intensity cycle really since 2008. When Pluto entered Capricorn, and we had the first meltdown of the financial markets. And then after that, it's just been getting more and more like a pressure cooker. So will it continue? Yes, it will. We're in the birth canal. It is pressure filled. Best estimate, 2024. Will start to feel the release. So I would say, let's get comfortable with the pressure. And
it wasn't worse the last 2 weeks, Lee? Was anything special happen the last 2 weeks or not necessarily?
Well, there's always stuff. There's always special stuff,
There is always stuff.
It just intensified during March. The energies, the militant, energies, the fighting energies intensified during March. And this is a societal change we're going through. The planets that I'm looking at that are making, big impact, they affect all of society, the whole world. So we're in that cauldron of the whole world, the incubator of the whole world. We really can't separate ourselves. We never could, because we're one with everything. And maybe times like this help us to know that more, to feel one with everyone, to feel our humanity with the people who are fighting to preserve their freedom and their democracy and their country. So first things first, we must attend to our own feelings on this beautiful new moon in Aries. I just want us all to take a breath together and breathe in. It happened last night at 2:24 a.m. The new moon in Aries, a whole new zodiacal cycle, a whole new year is beginning astrologically today. So this is the good news. I think often before the new beginnings, what you say, Barb, the last 2 weeks, I noticed before my birthday, the 2 weeks before, feel very intense. And I've checked in with others too. And I think before any real beginning of a new cycle, it's preceded by a need for release, by things coming up that need to be seen and felt and released, healed, integrated. All those words are just reflecting a process of facing our feelings and our emotions and relating to them with an open heart and a loving manner, so that we learn not to be afraid of them anymore. Our feelings have been very fear-inducing for most of us in this life. We're not taught, we're not trained. How do we work with our feelings? How do we work with these volcanic eruptions that we don't even know where they're coming from half the time? So that's what I'd like to address a little bit today, because it is kind of my specialty. I've come into this world like some with volcanic, family feelings, and that comes through, and needing to tame, needing to train my own mind and befriend my feelings, not keep them at bay. So that's number one. I would just invite us all to allow a recognition of what we're feeling right now. Just take a moment. And it's the first thing, the first feeling that you're aware of. Recognize and accept. Recognize and accept. If we can recognize the feeling, be it grief or anger, or maybe even like numbness, at a certain point, we can just go numb or choose to go numb. So whatever it is, just acknowledging it and accepting it and letting it be there. That's number one. That's like disarmament. We put down our arms against ourselves. And then allowing that feeling to inform us. A good question to ask is, have I felt this feeling before? And go back, into childhood or to a time that may have been traumatic, because these feelings get coded, they get embedded in the psyche. So they tend to come up during times of intense stress and pressure, which is what we're under now. And also just to remind that it is the pressure of the Earth's movement that creates diamonds, right? So it's that intense pressure that's needed to create something as beautiful and as impenetrable as a diamond. And I feel like that's the process we're all in now. For any of us who are open to it and want to do it, it's available to us to really see who we are. And there's something about this pressure and the April 12th, which you had asked about, April 12th, it's a conjunction. It's a movement between Jupiter, the planet, social planet of abundance and blessings and growth and fullness and humor and lightness. Jupiter is like Santa Claus. He brings gifts with joy, which is a welcome gift right now for most of us. And Jupiter is conjunct on April 12th, exactly at 24 degrees Pisces, Neptune. So Neptune and Jupiter together, 24 degrees Pisces. The beautiful thing here is that Jupiter naturally rules Pisces. So it's strong in Pisces. It's powerful. It's natural. Its action comes out powerfully. So you get the full blessing of Jupiter when it's in Pisces. And conjunct Neptune, and Neptune is at home in Pisces as well. We get a chance. Neptune in Pisces is the part of our psyche that is connected to our divinity. You could say Jupiter in Pisces also connects us to our divinity, to our oneness, to our understanding that we're not these human beings, being slammed around by, life, that we are actually spiritual beings having a human experience. And this human experience is tough right now. It's very difficult for so many, and we can acknowledge that. And it is during this time that we can also kind of slip past and through the veil and get who we really are. It could be in a moment of listening to music, of meditation. So these are all activities I recommend for slipping into that Jupiter Neptune place, because it's a completely different place than what we know on the 3D level of worry and uncertainty, of instability, of tremendous loss and destruction. And we've been knowing it for years. So I feel like this is a trauma state that many of us are needing to heal. And I love the quote by Bell Hooks. She says, "Healing is never an individual affair. It is always done in communion with others." So I offer that because in the West, in the United States, I think we have to do everything by ourselves, right? And that is really missing the mark here. And I even offer this time together as I share the themes of this month via the astrology, that my intention is creating a healing space where our feelings can be fully felt, acknowledged, accepted, and cared for by us. If we don't care for these feelings that are being triggered now, what happens is we tend to project them onto others. And a lot of people are having difficulties in relationships, breaking up, and like bad arguments that feel like, is this ever going to be solved? Well, the energies are with Aries so dominant. And there's like 6 planets in Aries, including the moon and the sun and Mercury. Chiron is a planetoid, Pallas Athena, a planetoid, and Eris, another, she's a centaur planet. So all of this Aries, there's a strong desire to what? To do what we want to do, to be who we want to be, to say what we want to say, to just like go our own way. And like, you know, Aries is a warrior sign. You know, if you're in the way of the warrior, sorry, you know, off you go. So in that spirit of understanding that this is warrior energy, that we be very mindful of what we say to others, especially to people we love and care for, because they're usually the ones that we get triggered by. And if we do get triggered, to try to acknowledge and remember, oh, I'm being triggered right now. When those feelings come up, woof, you can bet that's a triggering. So just by naming it, oh, it's a triggering, that allows us to start the process of understanding what's going on. And we could say to our loved ones, excuse me for however long, I'm going to just walk away. Because, you know, this astrologer said it would be good. And it will be. And then we do the process of acknowledging our feelings. What are we feeling? Accepting the feeling, seeing, have we felt this way before? In what circumstances? What does it bring up? And then this is really I think the most interesting part, is to look at what the thought behind the feeling is. Because there's always a thought behind the feeling. And I was a skeptic when I first learned this. I said, no, that's not true. No, my feelings are just that. They're nothing but raw feelings, no thinking. I felt like they were so, like, you know, when a person has had trauma pre-verbally, feelings can come up pre-verbally that are traumatic, and we don't have words to them. So I was convinced there was that wasn't the case. Well, I found that, you know, I've always found the thought. Whenever I look, I find the thought behind the feeling. And then once we find the thought, then that is the opening. Because right there, we have a certain distance from our thought. Because a lot of us often think that our thoughts are reality, that our thoughts are us, but they're not. They're just our thoughts. So once we create that space and we're able to see this thought, then we can question, is it true? Number one, is the thought even true? Often these very early programmed thoughts are no longer true to our conscious mind, but they're still operating subconsciously. So we ask if it's true. We ask if it's helpful. Is this thought helpful? If it's not, what use? Let it go. Let it into the fire. You know, we have the Aries fire, Aries, a fire sign, cardinal fire. And then the last question is, do I do I wish to believe it? Do I wish to continue this belief, this thinking, this thought? And if it's not helpful and if it's not true, we probably don't want to continue. And that's that place of power to say, in this Aries new moon, we make our aspirations in the next 3 days. If you want to do a ritual, light a candle, anything with fire. And what is wonderful to do is first let go. Let go of everything that no longer assists, no longer benefits you. Let's be willing to be that kind of radically honest. Like this habit, this belief, this way of reacting to my so-and-so when they do such and such, this doesn't work. And then put it in the fire. And then really this Aries new moon, how do we wish to go from here? Who do we wish to be from here? You know, many of us feel like who we are is just like, that's who I am. But I question that. I question if who we think we are is really who we are. And it's a good new moon to explore that. Who am I? Who do I wish to be? With Chiron, the wounded healer, the maverick, the warrior, he is right next to that moon and sun, 1 degree away. So all of our wounds are up. And maybe this is what you were feeling too, Barb, right before this new moon with Chiron being really prominent. Chiron is being illuminated by the sun, and it's being deeply felt like enervated by the moon. It's creating a deeper feeling. So we feel the wound deeply and we see the wound deeply at this time. And this is for the next month, even 2.5 months. A new moon can last 2.5 months. So just be mindful of whatever wounds come up. I think our first reaction is to say, this again? No, I'm sick of it. Or, what's wrong with me that this is coming up again? Like, shit. Like, and what I'm saying is nothing is wrong if this is coming up again. If wounds are coming up, if the deeper wounds are coming up, the astrology says this is what we're facing. And people who aren't facing those wounds are acting out. Those are the ones who are, you know, beeping on the road and giving you the finger and screaming and yelling and going nuts. And I don't mean to be light about that because I know it's creating a lot of problems on Earth, people just losing it. So hopefully by doing this, by exploring our own thinking, by exploring our own reactions, not projecting them onto others, you know, you did this, that's why I'm feeling this way. It's like, if we can, on this new moon, if it feels right to make the aspiration to kind of let projection go. And notice when it comes up, because it does, it will. And notice it and then let it go. So we first notice it, let it go. But the aspiration can be, let me notice when I'm projecting and not owning my own feelings, and let it go. That's a beautiful aspiration to make every day during this month as these feelings, as these triggerings come in. So, Aries. Tremendous courage. So there's a twofold thing happening. There's a clearing out of old stuff, of wounds, of beliefs, of thinking, of feeling patterns that are being triggered coming up so we can identify and clear them out. That's one side of the coin of this Aries new moon. It's dealing with the past. The other side is connecting to our courage, our desire, our what's next, our feeling of anticipation of what the next, what is next in our life, our next, the life path that we are to take. I feel like many of us are like in a psychic holding pattern. And doesn't mean we're not doing good work or doing good stuff. But I feel like we're feeling like we're not really doing what we're supposed to be doing or what we're on this earth to be doing. And I will say, for all of us starseeds, as strange as it seems, this is the time that we've come for. This time that we're in right now is why we've come. Yeah, maybe we've cleared a lot of karma. Maybe we've generated a lot of good karma. You know, maybe we've created more compassion and love. All of that is wonderful, wonderful. And my deep, deep conviction is that why we're here is for this time to help usher us through these rapids. So here we've been on this river ride for a long time. And then all of a sudden we got stuck in rapids and we're still in those rapids. So to be able to come back to our own center, to be able to come back to our own courage, to be able to come out of the rapids of the world and of the emotional, mental, I don't even have a word for it. It's just it just feels very deep. It feels like a complete, like where we're wearing it, like it's in us, it's out of, it's on us. And all of this is meant for us to clear and to process the pain that we're feeling. We have a tremendous opportunity to harness the Aries courage and determination, not to give up, not to give in, not to say the hell with it, not to say, what can I do anyway? Not to resort to, habits that don't serve us. Now is the time to really come in and into our bodies. We have a very interesting pattern in the sky this month. It's a T-square. And without going into too much astrology, we have a choice of how we're going to react to a situation, how we're going to handle a situation. And the choice is either we're going to go back into Scorpio and do a real kind of deep dive into emotional distress, where there's no end to that, not on this earth and not now. Or we're going to take a breath and come back into Taurus, the North Node. That is our collective destiny. That is where our growth, that is where it is good to head in that direction of Taurus. And then what is Taurus? Taurus is the here and now. Taurus is, I feel this, I smell this, I see you, I feel cold, I'm hungry, I eat good food, I am at peace, I can handle what is. I am able to be with myself, with the earth, with each other. And I have the ground. I'm connected to the ground of my being. And often it's like the centering in our bodies and Mother Earth. So put your bare feet on Earth, Mother Earth, 20 minutes a day, changes everything, changes all the hormones, and gives us a place of peace to be able to come from. Whatever we can do, simple, it's simplicity, it's slow, it's gardening, it's baking, it's cooking, slow cooking, it's walking slow, it's breathing, it's basic. And this is basic for our life. This is what we need to live. And right now, this is like kind of where we need to firm up, our basic needs, right? That's so important. Really identify what we need. And during our day, identify when we're starting to feel like, ooh, because it's so easy to feel like, ooh, like we're starting to, ooh, like in a second, the whole thing can just go from 0 to like 100. And in that moment to realize, what do I need right now? Take a breath. Okay, I'm going to step outside. I'm going, if you have a pet, play with your pet. Have a glass of water, ground, put love into the water. Actually say the words love and peace into your water, and then mindfully drink the water. All of these ways of working with the energy is Taurian. And because that is where our collective destiny of growth is, it really pays to do that. So if we find ourselves caught in the emotional complexity and distress and crises of Scorpio, let's catch ourselves and move to Taurus, a conscious choice, a conscious shift. That is where we're going to find our peace. And that is number one right now. With all this Aries, it is about self. It is about our needs, our desires. So we just have to be mindful of letting our partners and friends know, if we need to let them know, that we may not be as available, to really create the space for ourselves. And then when we do deal with other, to be gentle, even with oneself, be gentle. That is the MO of Taurus, is gentleness. Kindness, gentleness, kindness. Just keep coming back. I say those words throughout the day as a touchstone. Gentle, kind. I think there was one more thing I wanted to cover here. A new awareness. Well, it has to do with the story of Chiron. I may have mentioned it before, because Chiron is in Aries and is part of this new moon. It is good to really be acquainted with the story, because we all have Chiron in our psyche. Chiron was discovered in 1977, right smack in the middle of the holistic healing renaissance. Right, there was Fritz Perls, who was doing Gestalt. There were all of the body-mind therapies coming out at the time. And that is Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer who has to integrate the mind, the body, the heart in order to know wholeness. So one of the more famous stories of Chiron is that he was the grand healer, the grand teacher, the grand everything. I mean, everyone loved Chiron. Well, accidentally one day when the centaurs were playing with their bows and arrows, oops, one accidentally got Chiron in the leg. And it was the kind of arrow that left a permanent scar, a permanent wound. So Chiron immediately on the spot was down. Now, Chiron is used to, after all, centaurs have the top half is a man, the bottom half is a horse. So they're used to running and going and not being contained at all. Chiron is now forced to lay on his back and receive healing. Receive the grace that April 12th, this Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces conjunction that I've spoken about, this literally can be grace. We can feel ourselves infused with an energy, with an understanding of ourselves as truly being those spiritual beings who are having a human experience, a complete shift of perspective from, oh no, life, oh my gosh, I'm just a human, to, oh, This is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to connect with. This is what I'm here to express. I tell you, that is enough. Right now, that is plenty. It is that inner work that is being called on. And we have a beautiful relationship with Saturn in the sky this month. And Saturn helps us to ground our goals and our dreams and our desires. It says, you know what? I hear you want this, but that's unrealistic. This is what I can give you. I'll give you this. Saturn is like a negotiator, right? He tells you when you're just dreaming too high, too big, and he wants you to keep your feet on the ground so that your dreams come true, right? So that we're able to actually manifest what it is that we're wanting. So for now, to look at our own wounding, as Chiron had to face his wound, had to just lay and receive the grace. Chiron was surrounded within minutes, surrounded by divas, by nature spirits, by fairies, by all of the beautiful healing nature spirits that immediately knew how to make poultices and which herbs would be good for his wound and what to drink to give him strength, to keep him strong as he healed. So I would just remind us to consider that as we allow ourselves to feel the wound, to be receptive to that. At the same time, we can be receptive to the amazing grace that is pouring onto this earth. We could say solar flares and coronal mass ejections from the sun are part of that. But this is of a different nature. This is of a finer, of a subtle, of a more true, the divinity, the spiritual, that level that is so present. It is so accessible. It is so available this month. However, if we stay in a place of panic and worry, and if we feel like we're just not able to connect to anything of worth or of meaning, then we may miss it. Not that we miss the receiving of grace, but we may miss knowing that we're receiving grace. And that's the point, to know that it's there, to know that we're receiving it, to know that it is our birthright. And at this time when things are so difficult on the planet, when the planets and the aspects and the scenario has tried us to the max, has brought us to the brink of how much more can we take, then in comes Jupiter and Neptune to say, you know what, you can take whatever it is because you are limitless. You are limitless. You are one with everything. Your nature is vast like the sky. Your nature is wise, is loving, is peaceful, just as it is. That's the blessing. That's the opportunity this month of becoming aware. So by following the Taurian ways of slowing down, becoming simple, quieting ourselves, becoming peaceful, we're actually preparing ourselves to receive that influx of grace. And it is a lot of feeling too, a tremendous feeling. So again, ground the feeling. Good food, keep drinking throughout the day. Put your feet, your fingers, you beautiful gardeners, keep your fingers in earth. You beautiful pet owners, keep your pets close. This is the time to really, really bring in all of the resources so that you can stay as present in the moment, open to blessings, connected to love and grace, connected to this a river of life that has continued from beginningless time and will continue through this time and on to endless time. Well, I guess that's a funny way of putting it, like an oxymoron, endless time. Well, infinity. So this is important to realize that this is a passage. And also what keeps coming to me these days is it is darkest before the dawn. And I am feeling like we are in the darkest dark right now, and that it's not going to be until 2024 that the dawn will come. I actually feel this month, April 12th, we cannot not feel it. It comes once every 165 years, 165. 160. This is a unique, rare opportunity. So align to what you know you can, receive the grace, and and understand there is a new awareness about our life that is emerging. Whether we're consciously aware of it or not, doesn't matter. If we are, take some steps toward it. If we're not, keep clearing out so that the space is available for this new awareness to take birth. Because Aries is the sign of birth. It is cardinal fire. Let's go. It's the creative impulse. So we have a lot of energy now to move forward in the way that we want to. So being clear on our intentions is vital. Without clarity about our intentions, we get tossed around. So intentions. And then I will just finish by remarking on the new full moon. Just mark your calendar, because this is going to be a high energy day as well. April 16th at 2:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a full moon in Libra. Full moon in Libra oppose the sun in Aries, square Pluto in Capricorn. My goodness gracious. So this is going to be a real trying full moon. What we're going to be called to balance our needs with others' needs. So think of the next 2 weeks of like our own cocoon, our own chrysalis, our own individual focus, right? This is really a good time to focus on self. Come the full moon on April 16th, then we're going to be asked to balance our needs and our desires with others' needs. So we're going to be broadening out. And with Pluto squaring all of that, a tremendous time. This whole month is like a shock waves. And then what do we need to let go of? Shock waves, what do we need to let go of? So in that spirit of understanding that is the astrology, we don't have to be, susceptible to the shock waves, right? We hold on, we create a harness, we can do things to deepen our center, our knowingness, our connection to each other, to the earth, and to all that is. I mean, from that standpoint, the Buddha taught that our true nature, nothing can touch it. That no matter what happens, it's still there, perfect. No matter if a person is in a coma, if a person has had 2 arms taken off, if a person is blind, if a person is mentally ill, doesn't matter. The Buddha nature is perfectly intact. So understanding that there is this like perfection behind it all, and taking root in that, some people call it like the 5th third dimension, fifth dimension, like the fifth dimension or the sixth dimension. I'm not sure, perhaps, but it definitely is not this. It's not the 3D, like, oh my gosh, it looks like the sky is falling, Chicken Little. That is not the place that we're being invited to inhabit. And then from that place of knowing who we are, it's like we are the guide, the image that comes is we're guiding humanity like through the river Styx. In Egypt, the river Styx was the in-between world from one way of life, one form of living to another. And I feel that as we do our own internal holing and healing, that we become guides to this world as we're on this journey, this very, precipitous and treacherous journey, that we are like way showers rather than, getting caught in the undertow. So that's the spirit that I share this astrological teaching, and that we all possess that. And if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. It just is in my bones, so I must say it. And also with this full moon, there's a tremendous energy. It's as if on the 16th, we've been activated. We've come out of the cocoon of the 2 weeks of more internal looking and inventory and clearing and seeing. And then there is an ignition. We are connected to our like intelligence, our instinct, our sense of what's right and what we're here, what we're willing to fight for. That is what Aries ultimately is. What are we willing to fight for? And that will be very clear on the 16th. And then in harmony with others, knowing we're not in it alone, right? We're in it with others. So the whole movement toward finding our tribe and honoring the people in our lives who are our tribe and who create the cauldron for us and with us so that we can continue to be that phoenix rising out of the ashes, which is what this Pluto return to the United States, i.e. the whole world. Whenever something big happens to the US, it happens to the world, because the US is such a central, pivotal country for the world. And there is this powerful death and rebirth happening this year and next year for the United States. 248-year cycle, and we're in it now. So we expect things to break down, things to decay, things to fall apart. It isn't easy, and it isn't fun to witness. However, it must happen in order for the new to transpire. So the 16th, I do believe they'll, like on a personal level, will be feeling an energy ignition. I don't know how many have been feeling exhausted, but myself, my husband, who usually is the ever ready bunny, he has been feeling exhausted for weeks now. So allow that there's like a death happening, an old form, an old something is dying. And then on the 16th, boom, it's as if we're reborn. And it could be that like striking that, oh, I notice I wake up and I feel energy. Or it could take a few days, but it is happening. And I would just offer all of us to trust the process that is going. There's something under here, something that's bringing a new something out from the ashes. There is something very, very fine that is awaiting rebirth from the ashes that we're seeing. This isn't the end. This is just the end of something. And the rebirth, that'll be the glory, right? So we have to like hang in. Like I feel like a cheerleader, like we can do it. Just hang in. We just have another, year and a half to go. And then we'll reap the benefits of this, of what we're committing. And I do want to just emphasize that word commitment. Aries, all of the planets in Aries and Saturn making these very strong aspects really wants commitment. This is not the time to be wishy-washy. We make commitments, true commitments, based on everything we've been through in the last 2.5 years. We now commit to what we know is right and true for us. And even if it's one thing, we commit to that for ourselves. And if we can commit to one thing for the world, you know, this is a building process. This isn't going to be built in a day here. This is the beginning, the beautiful beginning. And just like we smell the sweetness in the air, along with the cold chill in the Hudson Valley, yikes, and the Northeast, we know spring is so close. It's just right there. So similarly, I encourage us all to have forbearance and patience. You know, that word forbearance, you know, being willing to bear whatever we need to. And it's a lot right now for us sensitive ones. So acknowledge that. I really feel like I want us all to give ourselves pats on the back, big hugs, acknowledging what we're about, what we're, you know, committed to, what our lives are devoted to, and the struggles that we may have been, that we've been having, and the strength that we've also been showing. Now is the time to be the fair judge, like Chiron. Like Chiron, oh, I just have to finish that story. Chiron laid there for months while the divas were healing him. And at a certain point, he stood up, but he wasn't healed. Chiron was one of the immortals, along with Jupiter and the other gods. They were at Neptune, Pluto, they're immortal. Well, as an immortal, Chiron had an immortal wound. He would never be able to get rid of it. So he made a decision to come out from the heavens, from the God realms, and become mortal, and actually become mortal, and have the wound and then die. And there's something in the story of becoming mortal, of saying, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not God. I'm not a God. I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and that means all of it. And to allow ourselves to have it all, and to be the fair judge, you know, and not condemn ourselves, and be very, very kind as we come through this passage, and all the shit is hitting the fan, and all of the personal wounding and collective wounding are coming up. It would go deeper into tenderness and kindness and forbearance, the ability to bear and endure during these times in a good way. And don't forget, we're not here to do it alone. Call, text, you know, check in with tribes people. And I'm here for anyone to check in with. I mean, I know you, most everyone here, because we need each other during this time. And even if it's just to hear each other's voice, okay, I'm here, very good. Sometimes in the heat of it is when we feel like less able to reach out. I don't know if it's a shame, an embarrassment. How could I possibly reach out when I'm when I'm unraveling like this? And yet it's okay. It is the humanity. What Chiron shows is that it is in our wounds acknowledging our wounds, that we know our humanity. And in acknowledging our wounds together, we know our humanity together. And that is the way we heal. So let us acknowledge our wounds together without shame, without any feelings that something is wrong. This is powerful, necessary work. And I really honor everyone here who is doing that work and is willing to do that work, and honor everyone on the planet who is willing and able and doing that work, because that is helping us get through this time without all going mad. You know, we can go mad for moments. This is what I feel. We can go mad for moments, but just not too long. Or else it's, you know, the width. It's so, we go from this side to this side. The rapids are so intense that if we let ourselves go a little too far into them, whoop, we could wipe out. And let's try to avoid wiping out. But if we do wipe out, that's okay. We can get up and, you know, get back on in the boat. No problem. So the message is no problem, that we have this, together, that this is a collective healing that's happening. And as we're doing our own individual work, we're actually doing it for every being on this planet. And every being that we encounter feels that and knows that and gets touched by that, the permission to heal and to love and to accept and to really tame our minds, train our minds so that, you know, we're not being taken by it. I will recommend a book. If you haven't read Jill, what's her name? Bolte Taylor. She wrote a book called, I think, Whole Brain Living or something about the brain. She had a stroke in her 30s, neuroscientist. She lost everything. She had to learn everything from scratch, everything. Talking, breathing, walking. Oh my God. And then she comes up with this system to help us during this time, where she identifies these 4 parts of the brain that when we identify them, we can like have them talk to each other. So the other day, the part of the brain that is the emotional, reactive, fear, past brain got activated. And I remembered her book. And as I was walking, I acquainted that part with the part that knows my connection to spirit and to love. And I was able to connect those two like very quickly. And the other 2 parts of the brain, the rational thinking part and the other, the sensate part, where like we feel our feet on the ground. We feel the air on our skin. We know where we are. We know ourselves in this moment. Here we are. So I find that her system so elegant because it's just these 4 parts that, you know, can relate to each other when maybe we get stuck. So just a beautiful tool that she's given us through her pain and her crises and her healing. So very powerful. So my dear ones, I don't know what time it is. I hope I didn't go too, oh, that's perfect.
Hey, Lee, I just wanted to say that that book you talked about, let me unmute it here. It's called The Stroke of Insight.
Yes.
It's my stroke of insight, and it's by Jill Bolte Taylor, A Brain Scientist's Personal Journey.
So beautiful. And she wrote a second book called, I think it's Whole Brain Living. And in it, she describes this 4, you know, brain type paradigm and how we can work, how we can relate those parts to one another so we don't stay so stuck in one part for too long.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know about that book, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Lee, I want to just say to you, oops, I want to say to you that, wow, you just took it all and made it so practical and understandable and authentic. And I think it was Phyllis who said perfect psychological advice, like it's brilliant. And another book that's helped me, which goes, it's kind of similar to the book you just showed, is Richard Schwartz, No Bad Parts. Because it's the parts. And there's an opening by Alanis Morissette, and it is very helpful because if it's a part, then we don't have to be overtaken by it. So it's that same, it all kind of works together. But Lee, you're so present and wise, and thank you so much. This was just, I think, just words that everybody here needed to hear.
Oh,
Made me feel really good.
thank you. Thank